They told me to step out of my tent with my hands up, on my own ranch. At 2 a.m., flashlights, badges, and an HOA president who looked like she'd just won the neighborhood lottery. That night, I realized peace and ownership weren't the same thing, and I was about to prove it painfully. The officer's beam blinded me as he ordered, "Hands visible, sir." Behind him stood Lydia Warwick, Pine Hollow's HOA president, clutching her favorite folder of fake power. I saw the usual disciples, Nate the chest puffer, Clara the hesitant tag-along, and 2 nasal-tight board members, all acting like I'd broken into my own grandfather's legacy. "This is my property," I protested, voice shaking more from fury than fear. The lake glittered behind them, the water my family had protected for 60 years. Lydia smirked, waving those documents she loved to weaponize. When you feel the ground shift beneath your feet, you either fall or dig. Before we go further, thank you for being here. You could be anywhere, yet you're diving into this wild chapter with me. If you love stories where ordinary people reclaim what's theirs, tap that like and stay subscribed so we can keep reclaiming a little justice together. The deputy sighed like he'd rather be home watching reruns. "Just work it out with the HOA," he muttered, already halfway to the patrol car. Lydia seized the pause to mispronounce my last name, her favorite sport, and declare the lake community property. As I packed my tent under their watchful flashlights, humiliation burned hotter than the campfire. I was 35. Being evicted from memories, fishing with Granddad, moonlit swims, the smell of pine needles after rain. But while Lydia played queen of the cul-de-sac, she hadn't realized one thing. She was the trespasser, and I was about to prove it. Back at the ranch house, a text pinged from an unknown number. "Check your barn tomorrow morning, LW." At dawn, mist coiled over Harper Lake while I followed the crunch of gravel toward the barn. The door groaned open like it knew bad news was waiting. Inside, a bonfire smoldered, briefcase metal, half-burned paper, and Lydia's signature folder curling in the heat. Only one thing survived, a glinting key tucked beside the ashes. 5 years earlier, the HOA had begged Grandpa to donate the lake. He'd refused in writing, attaching copies of the 1968 deed and survey lines. I still had them, all authentic, all unshakable. Lydia's manufactured paperwork would crumble under a single county stamp. That night's message had been bold. Someone had entered my land, torched their own evidence, and left a souvenir to mock me. But anger clears the head better than coffee. I backed up every file I owned, marked the property line with fluorescent tape, and started planning my counterstrike. When you face a bully, evidence is your weapon, and patience is your shield. By the next morning, I stood before the glowing HOA sign on Maple Street, folder in hand, ready to face their Caesar in a power suit. The house was converted into a courtroom parody, raised dais, one folding chair for the accused, and a corkboard map riddled with red pins. My lake was circled 3 times in furious marker. Lydia greeted me with her syrup-coated contempt. "Mr. Harford, our little trespasser." "Name's Harper," I corrected quietly, laying out the original deed. The words registered 1968 carried more authority than her entire folder of falsified fantasy. She didn't bother reading. "Community precedent over private hoarding," she snapped, waving a letterhead that looked freshly printed. When I spotted a familiar face recording on her phone, a new tenant named Sophia Bennett, Lydia noticed too and turned icy. Sophia leaned toward me, whispering, "She's pocketing lake fees." "I've got footage." So Lydia wasn't only trespassing, she was profiting. The meeting erupted when I confronted her about it. Accusations, outrage, and a sudden legal threat: pay $50,000 in usage fees or surrender the lake. As I left, my boss called. "Someone's been asking if you're a troublemaker, Evan. What's going on out there?" Rumors spread faster than algae in August. Overnight, friendly neighbors became frowning silhouettes. Anonymous notes on my truck accused me of selfishness. Even the coffee shop machine broke whenever I walked in. Lydia's psychological warfare was working. Sophia and I met in secret at a corner cafe. Between nervous sips, she showed me recordings from her hidden phone, Lydia contradicting herself about ownership, finance reports that omitted entire event profits, and murmured threats toward anyone questioning her authority. We struck a deal. Sophia would keep gathering digital receipts while I documented the land. My nights were spent measuring fences, my days learning property law until pages blurred. Grandpa's voice echoed from memory. Never let anyone take what's rightfully yours. The surveyor confirmed my fears. The boundary markers had been moved recently by human hands. Lydia's border was now 30 feet inside my soil. You've got tampered property, the surveyor said, camera clicking. I'll file a certified report. That was my first hard proof. Lydia responded with theatric vengeance. She threw weekend festivals, Pine Hollow HOA Lake Days, complete with banners proclaiming community pride and subtle little Evan Harper not welcome signs. The stage lights burned my name into sarcasm. Yet evidence doesn't care about gossip. I kept collecting. One afternoon, I found a shred of navy blue fabric tangled on my fence, embroidered with the HOA logo Lydia wore religiously. Proof in polyester? That night, a pickup slowed near my gate. A voice shouted, "Give it up, Harper! The lake's ours now!" Tires spat gravel. Taillights vanished. I clenched the shredded patch in my hand. They'd crossed from paperwork into intimidation. My phone buzzed. A text from Walter Grayson, the old rancher next door. Got something your granddad wanted you to have. Bring pizza. Long story. Walter Grayson's porch smelled like pine tar and nostalgia. He greeted me with a grin and a grease-stained pizza box. Relax, kid. No anchovies. Just truth inside. Inside the box lay drawings, hand-inked maps, and legal scribbles from decades past. Walter had fought his own land battle back in the day, against the county no less, and won using precedent that still held weight. Among the sketches, one line caught my breath. Handwritten witness signatures on my grandfather's original deed, including Walter's. She's using that lake like a cash register, he muttered. But the law still loves evidence. Get yourself a copy of every county record before she loses them. Meanwhile, Sophia's digging paid off. Photographs from a seminar Lydia attended years ago on creative HOA revenue. Its speaker? Later convicted of property fraud. Lydia was literally certified in corruption. We mapped out a plan, exposed the scheme publicly, but before we could act, Lydia made her next move, public relations warfare. At the monthly meeting, she painted me as an absentee villain destroying community harmony. Whenever someone questioned her, she pivoted faster than a politician at a press conference. Yet cracks surfaced. Clara Hayes, one timid board member, whispered, "Where are the Vance documents you keep citing?" Lydia smiled thinly. "In secure storage." Sophia filmed the exchange, capturing the flicker of panic behind that smile. Afterward, I decided to reclaim my ground with an act of defiance. Another overnight camp on my shore. This time I wasn't alone. Walter parked his beat-up truck nearby. Sophia kept livestream tabs. Around 11 p.m., engines roared again. But not cops this time. Floodlights lit the water as contractors unloaded fencing. One worker frowned at Lydia's paperwork. "Boss lady says it's legal," he muttered. "But these lines don't match." Another shook his head. "My dad lost his land to a scam like this. We're out." One by one, they left equipment behind, refusing the job. Triumph glowed faintly in the dark. Walter handed me another folder. "Emails," he said, "from Lydia to contractors. You'll want to sit down for this." The emails detailed a blueprint for conquest, phrases like strategic acquisition and quiet transition. Lydia wasn't defending community rights. She was staging corporate coups disguised as bake sales. Sophia posted a short exposé on her vlog titled "The Lake They Tried to Steal." Within hours, Pine Hollow's social feeds erupted. Residents shared stories of arbitrary fines, mysterious event fees, and Lydia's legendary temper. Public opinion started trembling, and Lydia felt it. She doubled down by organizing a community cleanup, complete with banners calling me a threat. Still, doubt had entered her ranks. Clara Hayes DM'd Sophia privately. "I need to see you. I don't think any of this is legal." That night, the suspects became saboteurs. While Sophia and I planned next steps, Headlights flashed across the lake. A truck screeched away with fence posts thrown in its bed. My property, the evidence, was literally being stolen. Anger can ignite you or clarify you. I chose the latter. Next meeting, packed house, standing room only. As I laid the 1968 maps on the table, Lydia waved new expert papers in my face. Too bad her expert had been dead since 1993. I called out every inconsistency live on camera. Murmurs rippled through the room. Deputy Luke Carver avoided my eyes, sweat glistening under fluorescent lights. Afterward, he pulled me aside. I'll try to calm things down. But Sophia's secret recording revealed the opposite. Lydia had cornered him earlier, hissing threats about an old DUI and his custody of his kids. Blackmail kept silence as her pet enforcer. The clip also caught something worse, Lydia's laughter over plans to seize every water access in Pine Hollow, flipping them to developers for hundreds of thousands. Her facade of community spirit masked a real estate empire in progress. When I returned to camp the next day, a velvet-roped gala was under. I walked into the masquerade like a ghost from reality. Guests twirled wine glasses, oblivious they were dancing on theft. Banners read, Pine Hollow HOA Summer Gala, thanks to President Warwick's vision. Lydia spotted me over the crowd and, without missing a beat, said loudly, "If anyone sees suspicious persons near our assets, alert security." The laughter that followed felt colder than the lake breeze. That humiliation could have broken some people. For me, it hardened focus sharper than broken glass. Sophia's newest leak detonated minutes later. Emails straight from Lydia's personal account outlining plans to expand control once Harper's Lake precedent was set. The screenshot hit residents' groups mid-party. Phones buzzed around Lydia like angry bees. That night, desperation rattled her mask. Lydia started calling county inspectors, pushing for code violations on my ranch. Anonymous complaints popped up about unsafe structures and environmental hazards. It was textbook retaliation. Clara Hayes, finally fed up, knocked on my door after sunset. "She won't stop until she's destroyed you," she said, pressing a flash drive into my hand. It held security camera footage, Lydia's truck, 2 a.m., cutting my fence, treasure disguised as pixels. An hour later, another text pinged, "Nice try, Harper. Play in my sandbox, get buried in it." Attached. A photo of that same flash drive sitting on her desk. She had spies everywhere. The board summoned an emergency meeting to finish me off publicly. By then, I'd learned exactly how to use their theater against them. Deputy Luke stood before the residents, reading a scripted statement declaring me a threat. But his hands trembled, and that guilt would soon turn the tables. The trial felt medieval. Lydia presiding like royalty, me cast as village heretic. Luke repeated false claims about harassment, voice wooden with fear. Nate Powell pushed a petition demanding I be banned for community safety. But whispers of doubt rustled through the crowd, people noticing signatures that didn't match their own. After the show, I caught Luke in the parking lot. "You know this is garbage." He lowered his head. "She's got leverage. That DUI, if it surfaces, I lose my kids." For the first time, he sounded human. "Be careful tomorrow, Evan. She's planning something big." The next morning, the big arrived. Emergency sirens, camera crews, and Lydia showcasing an oil slick on the lake. "He poisoned our water," she cried, producing fake barrels labeled with my company's logo. Only half the label showed another business name, her old cleaning firm. Sophia's zoom lens captured it before they could push her back. By evening, social media turned against me, but environmental tests didn't. The substance was fresh, only 12 hours old, and chemically identical to Lydia's own brand's industrial cleanser. Walter's new find gave us the hammer blow, a 1970s conservation easement signed by my grandfather and 3 other landowners, permanently banning any commercial or HOA control over the lake, legally ironclad. Sophia's cross-referencing revealed Lydia had already driven out those other families to challenge their easements later. Pattern, motive, method, airtight. That night, we set up hidden trail cameras by the lake. Around midnight, headlights returned. Two figures in hazmat suits emerged, and when one removed the hood, the camera caught Lydia Warwick herself, cleaning up her own fake spill. By dawn, we had crystal-clear evidence. Lydia, removing contamination barrels she'd planted, fingerprints on the handles, license plate visible. The trap had devoured its hunter. The real county inspector, Lydia's friend, replaced for corruption, arrived mid-morning. When he saw everything, his frown could have carved granite. Fresh contamination, mismatched permits, self-incrimination. This isn't vandalism, it's fraud. Within hours, the HOA phones melted with outrage. Walter coordinated with old friends at the courthouse. Sophia edited footage for maximum clarity, and I prepped the finale. The final emergency meeting overflowed. Neighbors, reporters, live streams buzzing. I laid down Walter's maps, Sophia's videos, and Clara's security clip. Piece by piece, Lydia's empire undressed itself before her stunned followers. When I showed the video of her midnight cleanup, the crowd gasped collectively. Someone shouted, "You framed him!" Another added, "She sold our land!" Momentum shifted like a landslide. Luke Carver admitted his coercion before everyone, tears trembling in his voice. Nate Powell swore to testify against Lydia, while board members scurried for distance like startled pigeons. For the first time, Lydia was speechless. Then she screamed accusations, fake evidence, doctored footage, but her words collapsed under handwriting analysis and timestamps. The meeting dissolved into chaos as residents called for her arrest. The police arrived, not listening to her this time. When they led her out, the crowd fell silent. But victory, I'd soon learn, was temporary. Days later, a letter appeared on my table with an official county seal. My stomach sank, eminent domain proceedings. Lydia's influence had lingered like smoke. She'd filed fake complaints years earlier, building a case to seize my ranch for municipal use. Despair can be quiet. Sitting in my grandfather's old chair, I nearly believed the fight was over. Then Walter showed up carrying a dust-coated banker's box. "Nuclear option," he said. Inside lay a 1972 perpetual land conservation contract. Grandpa had paid lawyers to make it federally bulletproof, no forced sale ever allowed. Penalties even for officials attempting it. The next courthouse scene felt cinematic. Lydia, shackled, pale, but still trying to glare, faced testimony from unexpected heroes, including a sharply dressed man stepping forward. Harold Vance, the long-missing HOA treasurer. He'd never stolen funds. She'd framed him after he found her embezzlement. He opened file boxes like treasure chests, revealing recordings and signed confessions Lydia never thought anyone would see. Her crimes stacked higher than her arrogance: fraud, forgery, conspiracy, bribery. By the time the verdict dropped, even her attorney looked dizzy. 25 years. No parole before 2047. The HOA dissolved. The judge called my grandfather's contract an act of both love and foresight. Each phrase slammed like a gavel of closure. Luke promised to testify in the wider federal probe. His posture seemed lighter than ever. Still, as Lydia was hauled away, she hissed one last promise. "This isn't over, Harper." Maybe she was right, because the next letter I opened came from another HOA, starting with, "We've been monitoring your influence." The county restored my property rights, cleared the records, and even fined half a dozen officials who'd greased Lydia's rise. Pine Hollow, finally free, held a picnic at the lake. Kids splashed where lawyers once lurked. Clara Hayes brought a pie spelling "sorry" in crust. Walter told the same fishing story twice. No one minded. Sophia live-streamed the celebration, her viewers dubbing it Justice at Harper Lake. Donations poured in for a new legal defense fund helping families bullied by HOAs. From one small lake, a movement had rippled worldwide. As orange twilight glazed the water, I stood at the dock where Grandpa once balanced a fishing pole in my eager little hands. "This lake belongs to everyone," I told the crowd, "but it will forever stay protected by those who respect it." Cheers scattered like geese into the sky. Later, when the guests left and waves whispered against the pilings, Sophia handed me her phone, grinning. Lydia had somehow managed to comment from jail. That lake is an environmental hazard. This isn't over. The replies buried her under oceans of laughter emojis. The camera panned across peaceful reflections. No fences, no trespass signs, only starlight rippling where corruption once stood. Walter laughed in the distance, Sophia narrated softly. And I cast one quiet fishing line into the calm. Grandpa's words echoed again. Never let anyone take what's rightfully yours. Now I knew he didn't just mean land, he meant dignity. The story could have ended there. But maybe it's just the beginning for everyone watching who's been pushed by bullies with fancy letterheads. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't rage, it's sunlight. If this story grabbed you, smash that like to keep the algorithm from siding with the HOAs of the world and share it so more people know they're not powerless. Remember, every time you stand up for what's rightfully yours, you keep another Lydia from winning.